This is a very special time for us. We've been working very hard to present a series of items to the public that embody and represent a lot of the values of our community and the strategic and forward-thinking initiatives of the staff and the City Council. I'm going to recommend that we consider all of these items at the same time because many of these items are very interrelated and connected, and do the very best I can to try and explain all of these items and then allow for the council to really provide the context for how they've been involved in these items and more specifically, with more specificity, what these items entail. So bear with me. I'm going to read out by law 10 items, so this will be fun. Agenda item number 1, first amendment to the agreement with Texas Disposal Systems for solid waste and refuse collection and disposal services. Agenda item number 2, agreement with Texas Disposal Systems for solid waste and refuse collection and disposal services. Agenda item number 3, Texas Disposal Systems Heroes Memorial Park contract. Agenda item number 4, agreement regarding confirmation of right to construct Heroes Memorial on that certain tract of land located at northwest corner of Kohler's Crossing and FM 1626. Agenda item number 5, approve Nudge Design as the landscape architect for the Heroes Memorial Park and direct staff to bring back a scope of services and budget at the February 4th council meeting. Agenda item number 6, park and cultural trail design and permitting agreement with MG Cardinal at Uptown LLC. Agenda item number 7, land dedication agreement with Plum Creek Development Partners LTD and Mountain Plum and Plum Creek Partners. Agenda item number 8, agreement with Plum Creek Development Partners LTD for conditions to construction of infrastructure for Plum Creek land. Agenda item number 9, police headquarters agreement between owners, City of Kyle, and architect PGAL Incorporated. And agenda item number 10, direct staff to issue a request for proposal for public relations firm to lead the campaign for the November 2020 general obligation bond for a new police headquarters and Heroes Memorial Park. All right, that's a lot. Thank you all for coming. This may be a record-setting crowd. There have been a few times in the past, I think, where we've had a line close to being out the door, but generally that was over various projects like our truck stop zoning that, if you'll recall, was extremely controversial. This agenda item and in particular the ceremony to follow is anything but controversial because it represents the best of what can be accomplished through a public-private partnership. And consideration of council and community values. So I'm going to try to go through how all of these items are interconnected. But the first thing that I want to do is give a brief explanation and analysis of the new Texas Disposal Systems contract for solid waste services that we are bringing forward tonight. It's my pleasure to announce that after a lot of negotiations, in part by some of us on council, and by the forward thinking of Councilmember Tenorio to bring this item forward several months ago and kickstart these negotiations, as well as working with representatives from Texas Disposal Systems, we were able to not only negotiate a contract that increased the scope of services offered to each and every resident in our community, but also lower the service rates, as well as lower the annual incremental increase in those service rates from a percentage of around 4% annually to 2.5%. So the current contract rate would be in the month that this takes place, $22.14 under the new agreement, as opposed to $22.97 under the agreement that we have been under for the last 10 years. And the annual rate increase, as I said, will be 2.5% starting in April 2020, and will increase at that rate every year instead of what was slightly over 4% annually every single year. We can go to the next slide, please. Keep going. Thank you. Where's the one with the bullets that talks about the different things that, is this it?
There's on the first one you're reading, it talks.
The first bullet also includes an increase of the annual number of curbside bulky call-in services available to residential customers from 1 time per calendar year to 2 times per calendar year, and up to 10 roll-off hauls per calendar year for our citywide community cleanup included. We also have a 1 time per month free landfill disposal up to 5 cubic yards for residential customers, which, if you're like me, is something that would be very valuable to a lot of us, meaning you'll be able to actually take up to 5 cubic yards of trash to the dump as a part of being a Texas Disposal's customer in the city of Kyle. This also will include free Christmas tree collection. So for those of our residents who purchase a live Christmas tree every year, Texas Disposal Systems will now pick that Christmas tree up off your curb for no charge in the month of January. There's a Waste Wizard app that has been rolled out and is now will now be made available to all of our Kyle residents, which will give lots of different notifications and updates for our customers. And we will have a third cart service, a green cart, will be expanded to include up to 10 craft leaf bags for compostable leaves and brush to be collected on the same day as the green waste service. And TDS will provide up to 4 restroom trailers and trash collection up to 80 cubic yards generated by the Pie in the Sky Festival. Not only is Texas Disposal System partnering with us in terms of increasing service to our residents, they're also going to be providing complimentary services for several of our marquee events, which is very much appreciated. They will be providing a conservation and recycling education during the Pie in the Sky Festival. They'll provide 2 roll-off dumpsters for the creek cleanup twice per year for the Keep Kyle Beautiful event. They will provide conservation and educational booth twice per year at market days. They will provide an 18-gallon in-house recycling bin to all residential customers who request it. So if you want to have a recycling bin in your house, you will be able to request and have that provided to you as a part of this contract. The contractor will work with the city to improve Plum Creek by providing compost and other materials up to a maximum of 250 cubic yards per calendar year, which is a tributary that we care greatly about. And our contractor will provide restroom trailers and trash collection services up to 80 cubic yards for an additional spring festival to be designated by the city. We have groups right now working within the city of Kyle to designate a second marquee event, and the Texas Disposal Systems has already agreed to be a sponsor in this capacity. All of these things with a lower rate. These are services that we have not been able to take part of up until this point, and so it's very exciting that the new contract, which will last for essentially for 15 years, it's a 10-year contract with an automatic 5-year extension, and then there will be an option for an additional 5 years thereafter. And that's something that we are very excited to have these rates locked in for that period of time. Finally, it is our distinct honor to announce that Texas Disposal Systems has agreed to contribute $750,000 in cash and $750,000 in-kind materials and design help for what we are calling tentatively Heroes Memorial Park, which is a park designed to honor our veterans and first responders, those who have fallen in service to our community. That park has been something that our residents and our veterans in particular have been working towards finding a way to materialize in our community for a very long time, and we have struggled to find a way to fund such a valuable facility. Texas Disposal Systems recognized that. The council recognized an opportunity in negotiating this contract, and everybody put their heads together to come up with a way to make that memorial happen. And this is something that I'm very proud of the work that our council has put together, and to call Texas Disposal Systems a partner, in particular because of their willingness to pull out their checkbook and make a community dream come true. So I'd like to give you all a round of applause for that. Those are only the first 3 out of 10. The next section, agenda items number 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all connected to Heroes Memorial Park, and that's a placeholder title until such a time as we get an opportunity to engage the community further on what specifically this memorial should look like. I'd like to point you to agenda item number 5 to start with. We have 3 members of this body, Councilmember Rizzo, Councilmember Villalobos, and Councilmember Ellison, who are a part of a Veterans Memorial Subcommittee, or we call it a steering committee. These 3 council members have been working very diligently behind the scenes to put together and interview companies and firms that can provide the type of services for designing a memorial park that is consistent with our values and our high standards. And Nudge Design is the group that they have brought forward, and we have a representative from Nudge who momentarily I'm going to ask to come and provide some additional elaboration on their vision and the way they intend to engage our veterans, engage our community to help put together a park that has as close to unanimous buy-in as possible for something that is so incredibly valuable. Texas Disposal Systems, however, is not, although they are going to be the primary sponsor of our Veterans Memorial, they are not the only one putting skin in the game to make this project happen. Momart Development, and in particular the owners that in Plum Creek of the land in and around the Uptown area, are also committing to convey land for the new police station that we are going to elaborate on momentarily. That's 5 acres. They are going to convey and donate the land around the pond next to the PAC Center through a series of agreements so that we can construct a memorial park without having to purchase that land. They are donating 1.75 acres for an office building to be located in the Uptown area, and 5 acres for the police facility, 1.67 acres for a central park to be located in the center portion of Uptown, and 3.1 acres for a hotel and convention center. These land dedications, but in particular the work of Momark and to help put together an agreement that will allow for a facility like our memorial is something that cannot be understated. They are definitely putting skin in the game to elevate the standard of economic development in and around the greater Kyle area, giving our police department the ability to put the maximum amount of money that we have available into the design and construction of the facility, as opposed to into land. And so that is also something that we're very happy to see happen, and signifies just how great of a community partner that they have been. The other items, agenda item number 4, 6, and 8 are related to technical documents that give the City of Kyle the right to design and construct the memorial, as well as the ability to design and construct the Central Park in Uptown and the streetscape that is between the memorial and the Central Park. Our idea, which is very preliminary at this point and will be fleshed out as we work through and work with these architects and design groups, is to have the Veterans Memorial be absolutely the cornerstone of the Uptown area. So when you think of Uptown, you will think of our heroes. You will think of our veterans and those who have fallen in service to protect our community, and this is fitting in my mind. There's nothing I would rather show off or lift up or demonstrate value to the outside world and to those who live here than such a park. We intend for this to be something that turns your head, that draws you in, and that tells a story of our heroes. It's a very exciting time to start this project. With that said, I know there are questions related to those items, but I'm going to also mention agenda item number 9 and 10, which is the next element of kickstarting the project that tonight represents. And that is agenda item number 9, where we are naming PGAL, the primary architect that built the police station in College Station and New Braunfels, to begin design work for a new 64,000 square foot police headquarters to be located on the land that was donated in Plum Creek next to the RSI facility on that 5 acres. We also, besides the Veterans Subcommittee, we have a police station subcommittee, and those members are Councilmember Villalobos, Councilmember Rizzo, and Councilmember Ellison. These 3 council members have been working along with another member of the committee who we named from our community, Mr. Mike Rubsum, and our police chief and the various members of our police department to identify exactly what kind of facility that we think we can afford and how to get that facility constructed in a timely and responsible manner. This particular contractor who has done this work in College Station and New Braunfels has been working on a set of plans that our committee has identified as being very compatible with the vision of growth that we have, and in particular the 2 studies that we commissioned for our police needs from an organizational standpoint and an officer standpoint and an administration standpoint, and the separate study with Brinkley Sargent that identified the type of space that we need to build in order to adequately accommodate our police department. It has been several years now since I have been serving on this city council where I have known that our police facilities were wholly inadequate for the growing police department that we have, and that we knew that the time needed to come, and it needed to come soon for us to build and construct a facility that our officers could call home for a generation. This facility represents that commitment, and we are going to begin the process now of designing and fitting that particular 5 acres with the plans, and we are going to begin the process of working with these 2 different groups to design the memorial and the police station. And we are intending to make sure that these particular projects are fully designed and bid before we would ever consider asking the public to whether or not they would like to issue a bond to pay for them. And there have been conversations from this dais for years, and in the last year in particular, very many long discussions with the public about the nature of what that police station should be. We've gone through all kinds of models and various ideas. Some of those ideas have been very public, but at the end of the day, this is the path that we have set before us that I believe has the greatest chance of being successful, and the type of facility our police department deserves. There is a preliminary figure of $30 million that we have attached to the police department that is for the total costs of construction of that facility. That number is not a bid number. That number is a very crude and rough estimate of what we think it could cost. And there are several factors that we are working on to try to narrow down and identify exactly what kind of facility this will end up being and what those costs will be. But our commitment as a council is to go through the work of determining exactly what this project will be and exactly what it will cost through a public process, so that when this goes to bond, you can know that the amount that you are voting on is the amount, and the construction for the facility will be immediately following should that bond be approved. The overall cost for this memorial is not something that we yet have determined because for quite some time we've been seeking to identify a means of paying for the design of a memorial. We know for a fact that we want to engage the community in a very public process and our stakeholders to get more volunteers, to get more sponsors to help pay for and own this facility jointly as a community. We have identified funding sources. We are thinking about total budget amounts that we might be looking at, but the memorial will really belong to the public, and the design of that facility will be something that I think we will do best to, will serve us all best if we do it one step at a time without exactly trying to figure out the end before we, go along that journey. So while I know there are questions, and I'm about to turn this over to my colleagues to add to and elaborate on the various proposals and agenda items, as well as to fill in all of the gaps that I have missed, the key takeaway that my hope the public receives from tonight's ceremony, as well as from tonight's council action, is not that we have every single thing figured out, but that we are working very hard to put together a series of projects that will have incredible benefits to our community from the standpoint of economic development, public safety, and in particular honoring those who have sacrificed everything so that we may have this freedom to pursue economic development and great jobs and a great community. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to my colleagues, and if there's anyone in particular that would like to elaborate on anything that I've said. After we go through this process, we are going to have a check presentation ceremony where, assuming the vote passes, where Texas Disposal Systems, and in particular Mr. Gregory, the primary owner of Texas Disposal Systems, will be presenting the City of Kyle with a check for that memorial. Councilman Rizzo.
First of all, I just want to start off by saying thank you to the other two members of the committee. I want to thank you for your hard work, for the time you spent on this project, trying to get it started. I want to thank the council as a whole. Mr. Mayor, thank you all for allowing us to really bring forward this project that's going to honor our veterans. When I first hit council, one of the things I heard is that we've been working on a Veterans Memorial forever. And my thinking was, let's stop doing that and let's start acting. And after speaking to past council member David Wilson, to many of the veterans in the area, I saw that the support was here for it. And I'm glad that this council is being very aggressive in really making this come to fruition. But this is going to be a very special memorial, not just for our veterans, but for our first responders and for the community. It's going to give our veterans a sense of pride, and it's going to give our community a sense of pride. And that's something I think that our community is lacking a little bit. We want people to be able to come out and say, come to Kyle. This is a beautiful memorial they have out there. And I think that I think we're in the right direction. And I think that this is going to be a beautiful memorial to our veterans and to our first responders.
Thank you. Councilor Villalobos.
In talking many years ago, and again with Council Member Wilson, and knowing his duty as a veteran as well, it was something that was near and dear to his heart. I'm a military brat. I've lived all over the world with my father very honorably. And when we talk about a memorial, we also, in our ideas and our conversations with representatives of the organizations, is looked at also incorporating an aspect that honors the entire family unit as well. As at many times you will see that the family unit is what puts our veterans and our heroes back together when they come home. So in taking that honor and understanding the sacrifice in my own right of being in law enforcement and commanding first responders into very dangerous situations and doing some very dangerous things, is that you understand the situations that many people have to make decisions in very peculiar situations. So I've seen their faces, and I've seen their families, and I've seen the suffering. I've seen the after effects of the stress of some of the first responders. I followed their bodies to their ultimate place and have spoken to their families. And with regards to this, that's what I'm taking with me when we are having discussions about designing something that honors every aspect of taking the full, or taking the sacrifice for something greater than themselves as an individual. So when we were interviewing organizations to do the design, the only one that came up with creating something, but then also understanding the magnitude of having something very long-term, something that's going to last for a very long, long time, that well beyond all of us is going to be honored and enjoyed by many people. So it's part of a, so to speak, part of a legacy, right? And the only one that was able to come up with that after effect was, the maintenance after. Okay, we have this beautiful thing that's honoring a lot of history and a lot of sacrifice, but then what about the maintenance after? And I think I look at it from a whole package, and a lot of people are about building an object, but what's beyond the object? And what do you need to do to continue to keep it together, piece it back together, provide what it needs, the culture that it needs, the cultivation that it needs to bring it back up, to keep it in its right foot. And I believe in the discussions and what I heard, and an organization that really works hands-on with their projects, is that's something that was very special to me, in that, yes, it's beyond getting there. And for a veteran and for a first responder, it's along the same theme. You get there, but what happens after? And then once you clear the scene, or once the incident or the conflict is over, then what happens after to the people? Not only the people that are affected by it, but the people that are in the middle of it, and the people that had to do the work. So I'm very observant, and I hear everything, and I incorporate everything into the overall direction, and I feel like this opportunity to do this as a keystone, as a cornerstone for our city, it's beyond just getting there. It's driving up to it. It's something that catches your eye, and then when you're there, you don't want to leave. And then once you're there and you're engaging, and all the other opportunities for family and education and honoring what people have done to give us the opportunity to be there. So very, I appreciate the opportunity of doing that. I appreciate the people that give me this opportunity to be here and be a part of this. I can't thank you enough, and I think it's been a lot of good work, a lot of great work by all of us up here, a lot of great support, and I appreciate that. I appreciate everyone that's given their input, and there's still going to be plenty of time for a lot of input for this project, and we're going to need every bit of it to make sure that we're honoring every aspect of what people who make the ultimate sacrifice do. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Soya.
So there's a couple of things. I've got several questions, but first I'm going to start off with the Gregory, Mr. and Mr. Gregory from TDS. So what I was telling them earlier is the very first time I ever went to TDS, I was a teenager, and TDS has always been a very big community sponsor. They've always been very supportive of their community. And I was a teenager, and I went to an Advance event there with my mother, who sat on the board. And I was 15, 16, I was dazzled by this amazing facility. And then to be able to, Willie's been on the school board for 10 years now. Our children have gone to Fuentes Elementary School, and that's important because Fuentes Elementary School was the first school in this county that offered a compost lesson. So each of our children were learning how to compost, and eventually that rolled out to all of the other schools. So the reason that I bring that up is because, for me, bringing forward this extension for this contract continued this wonderful partnership that TDS has, not just with the city of Kyle, but with all the aspects of our community, with our children and with us as homeowners. And so that was it was a very easy decision to make, was to, hey, let's have this conversation and let's continue this talks. And they showed one step further their commitment to our community by working with and sponsoring $1.5 million for this memorial. And so I want to say thank you again for this this opportunity to continue a great relationship and another cornerstone to the community commitment that TDS has made, not just with our school districts and our children who are now learning how to take care of the planet through tools that were provided by TDS, but also by providing a good quality service at a good value. And so that's extremely important to me, and I want to say thank you again for doing that. I'd also like to say thank you to Councilmember Koch for working vigorously on the negotiations, and I couldn't be more proud of the job that you did to facilitate that, and I want you to know that. So I wanted to say thank you to TDS before I ask my questions. So that being said, thank you, TDS, and I can't thank you enough. I mean, I think that it's an important partnership, and I really wish that other vendors could see how committed a company can be without just thinking of a community as a cash, but to actually think of them as a partner and as a family. And that is one aspect of TDS that most of you don't know, but my last meeting is February 4th, and I will always take forward with me from thenceforth that wonderful partnership and that wonderful love that I've always felt that I've gotten from TDS at all of the events that I've been blessed to attend at your facility, as well as the educational aspects that you have provided for future generations. So I want to say thank you for that. Okay, so I have a couple of questions for staff in regards to the scope of services that we're going to be doing for the memorial. Okay, as you know, I cannot support an item without a budget. And that's the reason that I will be voting no to item number 5, because we have no budget. $1.5 million would be the top for my construction costs on that event, for that project, because that's donated money and that's already been allocated through TDS's generosity. Another question that I have for staff is, how are we going to determine who we are honoring? So that's another question I'd like to know, because if we're only honoring veterans who have died in war, well, for Kyle, there's only one. Are we honoring veterans who have fought in combat? Are we honoring veterans who have fought overseas and not the veterans who supported? Are we honoring veterans who have served but not during conflict times? So those are kind of the questions that I'd like to wrap my mind around. And I'd like to be able to have the input from the VFW brought forward so that we can say, okay, exactly who are we honoring? Then we've also added this aspect of heroes. How are we going to determine who a hero is? What are going to be the qualifications to assure that we're honoring everyone who deserves to be honored? So those are questions that I have in regards to that. Okay. Then I have a question in regards to item number 10. And item number 10 talks about the 2020 general obligation. And it talks about hiring a public relations firm to do the campaign for us. So I have two folds in that. The first fold is, first, we haven't even decided if we're going to go out for a bond. And my question is should we be putting the cart before the horse? Because that's basically what we're doing. My second question is, and I cleared this through Paige, and we talked about this with Scott, in regards to the amount of money that we have talked about adding to that bond of $2 million and allocating that to the memorial fund. So that takes it to $3.5 million. And that funds, those $2 million funds are taxpayer funds. So I have questions in regards to that. And then we also have been talking about utilizing $2.5 million from the potential funding from Kinder Morgan, which kind of worries me as well. So we're looking at a fund of $6 million right now that we're looking for this pool, and I'm uncomfortable with that, and that's one of the reasons I want to talk about setting that budget, because to me, not giving a budget to a designer is like saying, here's my credit card, have at it. Well, I've got to pay that bill. And I'm also looking at a $24 million bond that I need for my wastewater plant. So I'm a little concerned that we aren't truly looking at all of the aspects here. For me personally, I think that the 1.5 for the memorial is great, and if we're going to use taxpayer money, I'd like to set aside a grant, utilizing that grant money to give to veterans who need help and support. I mean, I got another flyer for another barbecue fundraiser for a veteran. Well, if we had grant money available to actually help them, wouldn't that be feasible? Or using some money to buy a van so that veterans can drive veterans to the VA, or having services available to assist our veterans. So those are other questions that I'd like to have talked about as well. So that's really all of my concerns. I'm just so pleased that we're moving forward. When I started on this council, the amount of money that was set aside and dedicated to this was $10,000. $10,000. Then we went to $25,000. And to see the generosity of a community partner take us to $1.5 million is just astounding to me. And I'm just so thankful. As a councilwoman, as a taxpayer, I always have to watch my bottom line. So those were my questions that I'd like staff to consider when they're moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts?
I have so much to say on this, but I'm going to keep it short. Thank you, Councilmember Tenorio, for bringing the TDS contract forward at the beginning. It was not on a lot of council's radar. It wasn't what we were thinking about, but it is exactly what we needed to make this project happen. As she stated, the Veterans Memorial had been on our budget and a line item at $10,000 for several years, and ideas have been kicked around back and forth. And as we're negotiating the TDS contract and talking about prices and services and everything like that, and getting the best price and the best services and getting upgrades and doing all those things, Councilmember Dex would talk to me about it as we'd be in meetings and push us to try to do something real special about the Veterans Memorial. And he would talk about that need to actually get that budget item moving forward. And so we kind of put our heads together, and I just want to say that this is what happens. I am so proud of this council. This is what happens when council works together. You can see there's 10 items on here, and we used those first 2 items to catapult us to get these 10 items done. And we walked into those TDS offices, and we looked Ray Bryant and Rick in the eyes, and We said, guys, we need you to come big on a partnership with us. We love that you pick up our trash and do a good job on the services, but we need a Veterans Memorial. And we need a big Veterans Memorial. And they said, let's talk. And it wasn't easy, and it was longer than we anticipated. But I just want to say that your guys' company, the Gregory family, fantastic partners. And I've been a TDS customer for 13 years living here in Kyle, so I understood the quality of service that you guys provide. I understood what it means when something didn't get picked up and we'd give you a call and you guys would be there next day to make sure it was corrected. I appreciate you, Ray and Rick, for taking all the time that you did to work this out. There was parts that were really frustrating, but we just kept moving forward and working through them. I thank the Gregory family for your passion. For anybody who wants to understand the importance of recycling and wants to hear it given so passionately on what you need to do with sorting items, talk to Adam Gregory. And he will change the way you think about that, taking the 2 seconds to sort your items before you throw them in the trash and ultimately end up in a landfill or a recycling center. I also want to really thank Momark, the developer, because without them, this park wouldn't be possible in the same way. That $1.5 million would not go nearly as far if we had to talk about land acquisition for it. They have come really strong, not only for the park, but for our police station. And so I am, again, so proud of our staff and our council for all the hard negotiations and hard work and time they put into this to make sure that we can provide for not only our police officers, not only for honoring our veterans, but creating great public spaces for our residents, and at the same time, renewing a contract that lowers the price, increases the services, and just makes Kyle an overall better place. So thank you, TDS. Thank you, Momark. Thank you, veterans. And on a side note, I will not be stopping at 1.5 million in the idea of what we think about this Veterans Memorial. Wherever we get that extra money, public, private donations, our visions are grand for that park, and they're grander than 1.5. So I hope that we can achieve those, and I believe that we can do that together. So thank you, council, and thank you, staff. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Paige. The amount of time, this is our unsung hero right here, our city attorney. The amount of time she had to go back and forth and listen to everybody yelling at her. Thank you.
I did owe that to Paige. Yeah. Anyone else?
If you want, go ahead.
All right, I'll go next. I was kind of holding myself off because, as they say, it struggles to be brief. Brevity is certainly not my strongest suit, but I will second everything, third and fourth, everything that was said. There's a lot of people to thank. There's plenty of people and things to go around with what was accomplished here. When it was originally proposed, I think it was early fall for us to consider negotiating a renewal of the TDS contract. There was quite a bit of discussion about that, and it kind of got kicked around, and it got a little heated up here on the dais, but it was the start of something really great. And it's always interesting, hindsight's 20/20 when you go back and look at things. So I'm really grateful for the open-mindedness of my colleagues here on the dais to consider doing something like this, that we heard from our community, and there's other businesses and your competitors out there that certainly had things to say. We took this brave step forward. I want to say that there's a number of things in these agenda items, so I'm just going to touch on the three of them briefly. I second what was said about TDS. I remember when I was first elected to council in November 2017. I believe it was a few short months later, I was at a conference and TDS was there, and I had known Mr. Ray Bryant for a number of years, former resident of Kyle and council member in District 6 where I live, and I always admired his passion towards community and service. I remember he told me at a chamber event that I was going to be on the dais one day, and I looked at him and said, "You don't know what you're talking about." But Mr. Bryant and certainly his lovely wife Sandra have been great community activists and servants to this community, and two individuals that I've looked up to for a long time. And it made sense that someone that was so well invested in values and service to the community that he would work for a company like TDS. And that's where I first was introduced to the individuals at TDS, and I could tell there was something different. And when we talked, we didn't just talk trash. We talked about the core values of the company, and I would say that made a huge impression on me. I will also say, personally, as a Christian, it made a big deal to me when you all prayed before dinner. That was something that particularly stood out to me. That's what I want to just reiterate about TDS, is that I saw that there were very strong values with this company. It wasn't just about the dollar or a bottom line or anything like that. I had the privilege of coming out and taking a tour of the facilities and certainly learning a great deal from Adam and everybody else. And they certainly care about what they do. And it's just such a pleasure to see that commitment from a company, and one that has been around as long as it has. Mr. and Mr. Gregory, we've been calling them. I know you all are certainly proud of your family and your employees, and it's an extension of your family as well. It's a great group. Yes, we learned a lot, and there were some hard times, but always felt confident about it, and always felt like both sides were really trying to come to an agreement and an understanding, and certainly looking out for our residents at Kyle, and I felt that just as well from you all's end. So I want to thank you all for that. Next would be our Memorial Park, which it cannot be understated in the support TDS is giving us with that. It was something that we knew we had wanted to do for a long time, and it's been a long road coming. But TDS, you all have done wonders, and I love the opportunity to also, with the in-kind contribution, for us to use our own waste and recycle that and concrete and different things to then utilize and put in something that will be a memorial and something will stand in this community probably longer than many of us may be around. That is just so beyond me and just gets me excited, just the thought of it. So I want to thank you all for your ingenious idea of thinking about doing that, and the opportunities. I think they're going to be plentiful. I want to thank our veterans and our first responders back there. As a part of the steering committee that this council put together, we knew that it was something that was very important to us. That's why we appointed 3 council members to the steering committee, just short of what we can have as a quorum. That means we wanted to get this done. And so I want to thank the council for doing that. I want to also thank my colleagues, Councilmember Villalobos and Councilmember Rizzo, of being a part of this committee as well. I want to thank Bobby and the extension of your family at VFW. and the input you all have given us and the insight there. I think it's going to continue. I know it's going to continue. The approval by the committee to recommend to the council of Nudge Design as the landscape architect, I think is a great company. We had the opportunity, the steering committee, to interview them and some others, and it was a very difficult decision. We still have staff that's going to bring back the scope of services and work with them on a budget and different things like this. This is simply identifying that this is the firm we feel is right that can help meet our vision and what we want to do with that. So I'm particularly excited about that, and happy to have you all here with us. Definitely there will be much more input from our citizens and our community going forward. All of that is to be done. This is just the beginning, you all. And so I'm excited to be a part of this, a very small part of it. And I want to also, we mentioned the first responders because we know that our first responders are near and dear to our community. We've had some that have served and lost their life in the line of duty here. And we can't thank those men and women in uniform in our local communities that bring so much to us and do it so selflessly. Finally, I want to say a special thank you to Momark as well, and the partnership that we've had. I know there was an initial plan of what would happen in what is currently being called Uptown, but you all haven't missed a beat and have stayed right there with us as we've challenged and pushed our ideas forward. And I can't thank you all enough for being so receptive to those ideas and those tight deadlines and timeframes that we want to work with. And I know Stephen's smiling about that one. You know, it's exciting. We're ambitious. Obviously, this is something we've never done before, even at a council meeting. But I didn't want to be remiss on all those folks that were a part of it. Thank you to our staff, Scott. Please extend that to any and everybody who's been a part of this. We also thanked Paige, our city attorney, as well. But I would be remiss if I didn't finish my comments with saying who I really saw someone work and show their value like I've never seen. And not that he didn't show it before, but Mayor Pro Tem Coach with this contract negotiation. I was in awe watching you at work. And you are clearly a very savvy contract negotiator and businessman. So I definitely appreciated having you on our side because they had Rick Froman on their side.
Rick versus Rick.
Just kidding, Rick.
No, you're not.
But no, I just want to thank that. And like I said, it's been said here as well, but it's just such an honor to, those that know me know how much I love this community, and those that most don't know the amount of hours that all of us think about this city and deal with things. But I'm just so honored to sit on this dais with these particular folks and this council that are so driven and so forward thinking to want to accomplish bigger and better things for our residents. And we only sit in these seats temporarily. And, you know, it's such an honor to be able to do this, but it's also humbling and reminds us that community is what it's all about. And being there for your fellow person is what it's all about. And it's, I think it's kind of interesting that we're doing this so one day after MLK Day, in which those values were spoken about by him as well. So I'll conclude my comments there, but thank you all.
Okay.
Councilman Shield.
And I'm going to try and get through this without getting too emotional. First of all, as most of you know, I was a very big proponent of taking this contract to bid and do RFP and let whoever wanted to bid for it, go for it. However, TDS, thank you for, first of all, bringing forth all the services that you are willing to bring forth to the residents of this city while decreasing the rate. That's just amazing, so thank you. As the daughter of a Vietnam vet, and the partner of a current active duty military member, I also want to say thank you. This memorial means a great deal to me and the community. So again, thank you, TDS. Thank you, Momark. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Paige. But more importantly, to the members of our first responders, thank you for all of your hard work you do every day. And for the members of our VFW and our AMVETS, thank you for the sacrifice that you have shown for the citizens of this United States of America and for your families for their sacrifice. I thank you. So, with that, I'm going to shut up.
Anyone else? Motions? I'm sorry, say that again. I can't. We can, if you want to bring them up. It's a good time to segue. We can bring them up the next meeting also to elaborate more, if you'd like to do that. Yeah, we'll bring them up next time. We'll go ahead and do a motion, if that's all right.
So I'll make a
Go ahead, sir.
motion
Go ahead.
to approve items number 1 through 10 as written.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Coach. It's been seconded by Councilmember Ellison. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I oppose 5 and 10. I'm an aye for all the others.
Okay, motions carry. Next up is our presentation ceremony of $1.5 million check, which represents $750,000 in cash, $750,000 in kind to the city of Kyle from Texas Disposal Systems. I'm going to ask the council to come around. I'm going to turn the floor over to Mr. Gregory. I'm also going to ask any in the audience who are veterans or first responders who would like to come and join us behind the lectern as the presentation takes place. It'll only be just a minute.
I think put him in front. I'll put him on the stand on that. Come on, brother. He can do it.
We need to just move that entirely. Well, that's the microphone. Sure. Yep.
We'll,
We got space in here.
Still more space over here.
we got to keep coming around if possible.
Because he's not going to be able to get a picture. You want to move to the side?
Well, I thought we were moving this out of the way.
Oh, we can move it out of the way for the picture? We'll do that. Okay, that works, that works.
So I have somebody There's more room, guys.
That's wires everywhere. It's really hard to move. We're just going to have to do the best we can with this here. Is that okay? It's my distinct pleasure to turn over the floor to the owner of Texas Disposal Systems, Mr. Bob Gregory.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Wow. "42 years ago, we started out, and our goal was to be noticeably different, noticeably better. And I get emotional too. God has blessed our business. I am honored to stand here today with a council, such an articulate, amazing council, city staff, amazing in all they've done in this. And I'm humbled that we have a chance to partner with Kyle and do what we've done for the last 13 years and what we will do for many, many years to come. I'd like to thank Ray and Rick for the tremendous job they did on this. Equally, I'd like to thank the staff that we have, the Team TDS, that has made this happen for all these years. And I'd like to start out by recognizing owners, Jimmy and myself, and here's Jimmy right here, this much older looking guy right here. We started out just the two of us and one driver 42 years ago with that goal in mind, to be a ministry. Crazy, isn't it? To be in the solid waste business and to have a ministry. But that's what it has been all these years. Our wives, Kay and Janet, stand up, please. And all the other Gregorys here. Some of y'all are standing. Justin, Adam, Paul. I don't see Jennifer. All the executive managers, Tom, where are you? Tom, standing there. All the directors, managers, and very importantly, the drivers and the people that make this thing go. I'd like for you to raise your hand. Most of you are standing. All those that lead the company. I cannot tell you how proud Jimmy and I and our wives are, our family are, of this, our group, our Team TDS. I can't tell you how proud we are to partner with such a wonderful, incredible city as Kyle. Noticeably different, noticeably better gives us a goal to do things differently and better, obviously. If you ever come to our facility, you'll see that we have long-term plans. We think long-term. It's wonderful to have a partner that joins us in those long-term plans and where we can be a part of their long-term plans. A lot of what we do is involving taking recycled materials and making things out of them, whether it's concrete products or compost or soils, various types of things that we make that we're really looking forward to bringing back into this project. It's a thrill for us to be part of this. And we have many, many contracts with our 1,000 employees that we have, from just Jimmy and I and one employee up to where we are now. And we don't have a better situation than this with any of the contracts. And we thank you, all of us, on behalf of Jimmy and Janet and Kay and I, the other Gregorys, all of the employees. Thank you for this confidence. We are committed to giving you good solid waste services, both in collection, never to bogus recycle, never to do anything that's not straight up and above board. And thank you for the trust that you've given us. I too could go on and on, but I won't. I would like to, my name is Bobby, really, Bobby Gregory. There's another Bobby here. There he is right there. Would you come up and accept this check? And Mayor, how else, who else should? Okay, let's step right. Let's go right, I want to get in front of this man right here. You guys are all right. Y'all about the same height.
I love you already.
If you had a daddy, you'd love him more. It is a distinct honor to be able, on behalf of all of our company, to join as a partner in the Heroes Project and the Heroes Memorial Park. And it is tremendous opportunity for us to work with the city with a half and half, $750,000 in cash payment and $750,000 in in-kind services to help make this thing what y'all want it to be. And we look forward to this opportunity to work with it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bobby.
So probably not the normal veteran you think of when you look at me. I'm a lot younger than some of my colleagues that are standing behind me. I've been blessed to take command of our VFW here in Kyle, catty corner to City Hall. And I just want to say thank you to the city for helping us push this along. It's something that we've been wanting to do for the longest time. We've kind of seen a void, and now that void is getting filled. Thank you to TDS, all y'all great employees. We really appreciate it. It's definitely something that we know will be a destination here in Kyle. We'll definitely make it the grand gesture of the Veterans Memorial, as well as with the first responders being included in that. I want to thank the KPD out there, the firefighters, the EMS, especially all my veteran buddies. Once again, thank you, City of Kyle. We really appreciate it. TDS, you've been very grateful. That's it for me.
We're gonna take about a 15-minute recess. We're gonna reconvene. We have other city business to start. We'll reconvene at 8:40. So thank you very much.